Hello, everyone. It's Brinley Tucker, and I am so excited. I see some of you are starting to come in. We only have an hour today, so I'm going to jump right in. And first and foremost, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day today to come spend an hour with me. I have worked really, really hard for the hour that I'm about to bring you, and I'm going to work really hard to not get emotional. There's a lot that has gone into this day, and I'm very, very excited to bring this to you and then also bring something really special that I've been working on. And it's been 12 years in the making. And for those of you that have given me your time, I take a very, very high sense of responsibility to one's time. It's really, really important to me that when you take time away from your businesses and from your family and people that are important to you and you give it to me, that I give you value. And so that is my only commitment to you today. My commitment to you today is to bring you value. And first, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what led to this day. So I've been in this crazy world of personal development, real estate, for the last 13 years. And a huge, huge part of my growth and my journey has been a company called Keller Williams. And about 12 years ago, I was probably in one of the darkest places of my life. I had been raised by a wonderful, wonderful single mother that worked her tail off to raise me. I actually found out at the age of 34 that she gave me up for adoption for the first 2 weeks of my life. And for a long time, I thought that she had given me up because she didn't want me. And what I found out on that day when I was 34, when I finally asked, when I had the courage to finally say, "Hey, mom, why did you give me to the nuns for 2 weeks?" And tears started to fill her eyes. And her response was, "Because I wanted to make sure I was committed to raising you." And my mother committed her entire life to raising me. She was never married. She put me in great colleges. She put me in great schools. She worked her way up from being a $12,000 a year secretary, as we called them back then, all the way up to a senior vice president of institutional sales and one of the only females that was covering Manhattan at the time. And so I was raised by a very empowered, independent, strong woman, and everything was great. We struggled when we were young, when we were poor. I remember, there were times when you didn't use a full bar of soap, and mom would go to grandma and grandpa's house, and because of her pride, she would go take those soaps out of their garbage cans and mold them together so that we could have soap. But those times didn't last long. I'm not someone that can say that I was raised in extreme poverty or had these extreme traumatic things happen when I was young, but there was trauma that would come. And unfortunately, there's two sides to my family, as there most in most families. I have a side that was very God-fearing and loving and Christian-based, and then I have another side that was riddled with addiction, alcoholism, and just darkness. And I avoided most of that for my younger years, made it through high school, made it through middle school. And then one morning, actually, when I was a senior in high school, I had woken up and my mother walked into my bedroom, to my mother in my bedroom door, and she was crying. And she said, "Uncle Jim was killed last night." And my entire life, that was the first moment that my entire life changed. My uncle had been shot at close range through a bedroom window by his girlfriend's son that was my age at the time. Which things happen, trauma happens in families. But what would happen next is what would start to send me down the path of darkness. And that is that I had to scrub my uncle's blood out of tile floor. We ended up having to clean the home that he died in. And so here I am at 18 years old, right around my high school prom, right about to go off to college, one of the most exciting times in my life, and my family's falling apart. About 6 months later, my grandparents divorced after 48 years of marriage, and I watched the only epitome of marriage that I had ever seen fall apart. And we're going to talk a little bit about why I've struggled with relationships because of the timing, simply because of the timing of that divorce. And so after that, I went to college, and I was a relatively smart individual, and so I really didn't have to work hard. I still have a nightmare story about college. It was my senior year, and I didn't really have to study much. And mom said, "As long as you get a 3.0, college will be paid for and the money will keep coming. So on Monday nights, I played dominoes at Texas A&M to make a little extra, beer money on the side. And we were sitting there one night and a gentleman said, "Hey, aren't you in my econ class?" And I said, "Yes, but it's just a midterm and a final, so I haven't been going to class." And he says, "Brinley, the whole grade is based on your stock portfolio over the semester." We were 3 weeks away from graduation. And I remember walking into that professor's office and going, "I don't know what to do. I can't fail this class. My mother will kill me." And he said, "Well, I don't know what to tell you." And I said, "If I make more money than the entire class in the next 3 weeks, will you give me an A?" And I don't think he believed me. And he said, "Sure, blonde hair, blue-eyed little college Baylor girl or A&M girl." And I said, "Okay." I day traded for 3 weeks straight and I made more money than that entire college class. And I had that nightmare that I didn't graduate for like the next 10 years. But the point of telling you that story is the potential was always there. What masked it was this God-sized hole that started to form after my uncle died, and everything started to fall apart, and I just didn't want to feel. I didn't want to feel anymore. And so I would start self-medicating through alcohol and drugs and men and anything that I could find to fill that God-sized hole that was missing in my life. Until November of 2012. November of 2012, I was 31 years old. I was in a relationship with a man I didn't love. We had been together for 7 years. He made sure the bills were paid. I made sure he was clothed and fed. And I had nothing to show for my life. I had worked on Wall Street. I had gone to amazing colleges. And here I was at 31 years old, back home with nothing to show for my life. And I was drinking a copious amount of alcohol so that I wouldn't have to feel, because I was so miserable. And I started working for this company called Keller Williams. And they were having their annual conference, which is called Family Reunion. So I started in November. In February, the annual conference happened to be two hours up the road from us. And I asked my boss at the time if I could go, and she helped me pay for it. And I walked into that event, and there's a woman that I'm going to talk about today named Mo Anderson. And that woman, in one statement, changed my entire life that day. She talked about God, family, and business. And those were the 3 things at that time in my life that were missing. I knew who God was, but the God that I was raised on was, if you're not following the word, if you're not abiding by everything, then there's no room for you. So when I was in my dark stages, I didn't think God was there for me. And we're going to talk a little bit about spirituality and a little bit about God. And I always say, I don't care who your God is, as long as you don't think it's you. We all should be able to choose our own idea of a higher power to help us and to guide us. And then she said family, which was, my family had fallen apart. I didn't have any sense of family. And then business. I didn't have purpose in my business. I was basically just, my business was set up around my drinking schedule at the time. And all I saw was happiness. I saw people at this conference that were happy. They were at this event called Red Bash, and everybody was dancing and smiling, and everyone was happy. And I had no idea what that level of happiness felt like. So I came home from that event and I cried out to God. And I remember the night I was sitting on my porch and I said, "God, I don't want to live and I don't want to die, but I don't know how to get out of where I am." At this point in my life, I was probably drinking every day just to cure the hangovers from the night before and stop the shakes. And I believe that my higher power speaks, or he whispers, then he speaks, then he yells, and then he roars. And my roar came on May 27th, 2012. I had gone to a girlfriend's house. I had drank copious amounts of wine, which many, many, many others have done before me. But on the way home, I decided to drive. And on the way home that night, I made a U-turn in front of a motorcycle. And that gentleman was an EMT. And instead of coming home that night to his wife got a phone call that he had been hit by a drunk driver. I woke up the next morning in the bottom of a jail cell having no idea how I had gotten there. I got out of jail. I called the police station to find out where my car was, and they told me it was being held in investigation of a vehicular homicide. And I remember looking at my mother that day and saying, "What am I going to do if I killed someone?" And my whole life changed that day. By the grace of God, that man did not die. He lived, and I make amends to that man every day by staying sober and helping other people do the same. And today I'm going to share with you just a little slice and a little piece of the work that I've done to become a better woman, to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and to make sure that others don't let it happen. I believe that that man lived that day because God knew I would be more useful out here than I would be behind bars. And yet integrity has become my number one value. And I will share with you that I haven't done this before today because I wasn't the woman that was ready to deliver this message to all of you. I wasn't the woman quite yet that was ready to guide you on how to do the same thing that I've done. To have a better quality of life, to have a life beyond your wildest dreams, and to honestly reach your highest and best, but to be able to keep going. For the last 2 years, I have been in a season of rescue where I have rescued folks, and I have let me go. And today I can stand before you 6 months after pretty much the last kind of shed of saying, what's this next avatar going to look like? What do I want her to look like? I stand before you in the best shape I've ever been in 44 years, the happiest that I've been in 44 years. And I actually have a business today that I'm really excited and passionate about. And you're going to get to see that passion today. And it's a very, very simple formula that I use to get from when I'm in a valley to get back up to a peak. And that's first, I have to get my spirit straight. I have to quit playing God because I will act on self-propulsion. I will just keep doing things the way that I think they need to be done. And when left to my own devices, I screw my life up. I end up in car accidents, in jail cells, in bad relationships. But when I actually have people in my life that won't co-sign my BS and I'm willing to listen to it and take it, amazing things can happen. But first, I had to quit playing God and believe there was something bigger than me. And that can be Mother Nature. That can be a group of individuals. Your God is your choice. Your higher power is your choice. But first, we have to get our spirit straight, and we've got to get out of our own way. Second, you're going to hear me talk a lot about today is we got to get our heads right, our minds straight. Your head will have you dead. Once you get your mindset and you get your head on your side, then you want to get your emotions in alignment. And this is a lifelong journey for me because I'm a strong, passionate Aries woman raised by an independent single mother. My emotions are massive. And so they're great things for me when used in a positive, but the law of duality tells me that they also can be my greatest weakness. So first I get my spirit straight, then I get my mind straight, then I get my emotions straight, and then and only then can I start working on my physical body. Because that is one of the most challenging transformations when it comes to daily consistency and discipline. And if you have all those other 3 areas of your life in alignment, the physical becomes easy. And then your business grows to the extent that you do. So once you have your spirit, your mind, your emotions, and your physical body the way they need to be, now you have the whole being to go give to the world and give a business to provide in value. And I'll be really vulnerable with you. I've been in business for 12 years, and that did not happen until the last year, where I actually started caring. It wasn't just money and something I did for an income. I actually started caring about the people we're serving, what we're bringing to the market, what we're growing. And there's amazing things that are coming with that. So let's go ahead and jump into content. I wanted to share with you how I got here because I think it's so powerful to know that you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. And here's my 5-year journey. In 2012, that's my mugshot. That's the mugshot from the accident. 5 years later, only by surrendering, getting into acceptance, and being willing to do the work that others before me were not willing to do, I was on stage with Gary Keller in front of 10,000 people at Mega Camp in 2017. And then as I continued that journey and I stuck with it, which guys, I'm going to tell you, it is not going to be easy. It's not. There's going to be days that you don't want to do the work. And that's why I have built what I'm building for you, so that you have a community around you when it gets hard, like I did, that says, you can do this. I see some of my coaching calls, my coaching clients on this call, and they know they can text me at any time when they're feeling that self-doubt, because the only constant in life is self-doubt. If you're not feeling self-doubt, then you're not doing something worth doing, because all that is fear of uncomfortability, because you've never done it before. And then the next 5 years for me, as I continued this journey, I was able to be one-on-one coached by Tony Robbins. And so if you look back, where were you 5 years ago? But more importantly, where do you want to be 5 years from now? This is how our brains work. And what you're going to learn, those of you that haven't met me or don't know me, is I'm a pretty big nerd. My first major in college was neuroscience. And I believe if alcohol had not taken over my life, and if that tragedy had not happened my senior year, I would be a neurosurgeon today. But because I chose a different path in life, I didn't want to study. I didn't want to do the hard work that was required. But I'm finding myself now in my 40s studying neuroscience. And so we have two parts to our brain. And I think this is really important for you to understand, because what I want you to hear today is, we don't allow shame in my world. We don't allow negative self-talk in my world. And the reason is because it's happening unconsciously. You don't even know half of what you're doing because it's happening at an unconscious level. What do I mean by that? You have the conscious mind, which is the captain of the ship, the goal setter. I want to lose 100 pounds this year. I want to make $1 million. Then you have the unconscious mind. That's what actually makes you get up and do the work and do the activities and do all of the things that you need to do to reach that 100 pounds or reach that 1 million. Think of it as the crew of the ship versus the captain of the ship. The captain of the ship is at the top and can see everything. The crew of the ship is the underbelly and can't see anything. Well, here's how the brain works. We're getting 2 million bits of information thrown at us every second through our 5 sensory organs: our visual, our auditory, our kinesthetic, which is our touch, our olfactory, which is our smell, and our gustatory, which is our belly. And between those 5 sensory organs, your brain is taking in 2 million bits of information. I'm going to blow your mind here in a second, though. It can only take in 126. So in a matter of a second, your brain is taking 2 million bits of info, and it's going, okay, what 126 bits do I need to serve 2 purposes? Your unconscious mind only has 2 main purposes: to keep you alive, survival, and to get you what you want. First, it's going to ask, are you safe? If you're not safe, it's going to elicit a fight, flight, freeze, or please response. If you are safe, then it's going to go to the next qualifier, which is, what do they want? How do I get it? And the way it's going to do this is by deleting the information, distorting it, or generalizing it. Red stop sign, it goes in the bucket. Now, here's the most, and we're going to go over the phases of development here in a second, but here's what I want you to hear. When I first started teaching this 5 years ago, it was 2 million bits of information per second that we receive every day. Recent studies are showing that 2 million bits has gone to 11 million because of this thing right here. A lot of us, and the reason that we've seen a rise in ADHD and ADD and all of that, it's overstimulation. Our brains were not wired to take in as much as we are. And so if you look at research, the increase in ADD and ADHD happened when computers came into the home. Because now during brain development, you had overstimulation to neural pathways, and during that development, it started to change. I could go into this for months, and we will, and there will be an opportunity to do that. And we're going to talk a little bit more on this as we go forward. Guys, also feel free. I know we're on a time crunch today, but if you want to put comments in the chat or ask questions, do that. Even if I don't get to them on this call, I'm going to make sure I follow up with you and get them answered, okay? Because a lot of this is heavy stuff, and I want you to know you've got a safe place to come to after. So let's jump in. I'm going to take you through about 3 or 4 of my mentors today, and I have pulled out the most important things that they've taught me that have helped me literally become a different human. You know, Tony says this as well as I do. We argued actually when I coached with him on who said it first. This is not the Brinley that was born. It is the Brinley that was born, but this is the Brinley that I actually built. The Brinley that was born has a lot of the qualities that I have, but outside factors took her away. And then I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision every single day. I had a daily reprieve contingent upon my commitment to personal growth and becoming a different human in order to have a different life. And Tony was a huge part of that. I was a platinum partner with Tony for almost a year. He really taught me 3 things: how to change my state quickly, how to recognize pattern in other people, which has helped me tremendously in my coaching, and how to get to happy. So let's jump in. Number 1, mastering your emotional state. You can quickly change the way you feel simply by changing 3 things. The first is your physiology, how you physically stand. So when we're depressed, we typically will go, but when we're confident and we're excited, we're chin up, chest out, smiling. Simply by changing your physiology, you can change the way you feel. So next time you go to do something that's hard or that you don't want to do, check in with your physical body. Are you in a confident posture, or are you in a depressed, this isn't fun posture? The second thing I want you to change is your focus. Most of the time, anytime we're frustrated, angry, any type of negative emotion, we're focused on things that we have absolutely no control over. And the minute that we shift our focus to what we can control, everything changes. So I quickly want you to check your physical body and then ask yourself, am I focused on something I can control or something that I can't control? And then quickly move to something you can control. I always say I can't control people, places, and things. I can only control me, my attitudes, my thoughts, and my behavior. And then lastly is the language or meaning that you give something. If you say something is hard, what is it going to be? Hard. This morning, I very rarely get nervous, but today I was nervous. And I kept reframing it and saying, no, Brinley, you're not nervous. You're excited. You're excited because nervousness is labeled in my mind and in my brain as something that gives me anxiety or worry or stress. But excitement is something that's fun and new, and it's all going to be fine. And if something goes wrong, we'll figure it out. So change the meaning, change your emotional state. The next thing that Tony taught me was the 5 keys to change your life. Number 1 is you got to feed your mind daily. People often ask me, how do you win your morning? And I'm going to share that with you on my next mentor. But my morning is set up for me. And every high achiever is doing something to feed their mind daily. Number 2 is feed, strengthen, and train your body. Go do something uncomfortable every single day. I have tried everything under the sun, you guys, and I'm going to go deeper into health and some stuff that I'm rolling out. I have done the shot. I have done keto. I have done 21-day fasts. I have gone to retreats. I have done everything that you can possibly try. And I was skinny fat for 44 years. Well, maybe not 44 because I was a kid. I was skinny fat. And it was just this cycle of doing it all over again, all over again, all over again. And today I stand before you. I have exercise in my life that I love, that is giving me muscle and tonality. And I'm no longer skinny fat. And I can actually, like, my gut is reducing and bloat is going. I mean, all these amazing things are happening to my body. So you've got to do something every day for your physical temple, because this is what holds you. And you've only got one body. Number 3 is find a role model. The wonderful thing, guys, about today is you don't have to reinvent the wheel on anything. It's called Google. Just kidding. There's role models everywhere. So if you want to achieve something, go find the role models that will help you do that. If your marriage isn't going well, Who are you surrounding yourself with? Do you have other couples in your life that have strong marriages that are your examples that you're meeting with? I study a woman named Allison Armstrong when it comes to masculine and feminine energy. She's somebody you're going to start hearing me talk about a lot in the future. Are you understanding how your spouse or partner thinks, behaves? Do you know what their brains are doing? So find models that do to improve your situations. And that leads us to proximity is power. Find your tribe of 5. And I'm creating a community to help you do that because I think that's so important. And sometimes our family and our friends don't need to be that community. It needs to be a safe place that you can come to. And then always give away more than you expect to receive. This is probably the secret to life. If you're always giving more than you expect to receive, you're most likely always going to be happy. Next, Tony taught me how to remove a limiting belief. And we're going to give you guys a replay, notes, questions of all of this. So if I'm moving a little quick because of time, just know that you're going to get all of this for replay. It's really important to me to always bring you guys massive value. So I packed a lot in and I'm going to start moving quickly just to keep up with time, but just know you're going to get the recordings and everything. But stay with me because I got something really exciting for you guys at the end. I'm so excited. All right. So 3 questions to ask yourself when you're in a limiting belief. Number 1, is it true? Could this be an interpretation? Do I have all the possible information that I need to know exactly what this means? Then I want to ask myself, what do I feel or experience or become when I believe this? How does it make me feel? Do I feel good? Do I feel bad? How is it serving me? And then number 3, if this thought didn't exist, how would I feel? Behave or experience life? What would that be like? Here's the thing about the brain, guys. The brain is always going to create a narrative to fill in gaps. And so a lot of us are spending the majority of our lives living in a story. And that's simply because we don't communicate enough. I had a recent conversation with someone where they thought it was better not to tell me something because they thought it would hurt me. And I said, no, it's better for me to know. For me, I want to know, because if I know, then I'm not creating narrative and my brain's not trying to figure in gaps and fill in the gaps, because everyone will do that. But what happens is we live in an avoidance culture where no one wants to have healthy communication and healthy conversation. And so we just avoid, and then we're all running around with our own narratives, creating bigger problems and bigger issues than we need to. So these are really 3 questions that you can ask yourself to know, like, is this a lie and a hallucination that I'm telling myself, or is this real? And then finally, this is one of my favorite things that I learned from Tony, and this is how to get happy in 7 seconds. This comes from Mo Gawalt's book on happiness. Number 1 is you want to acknowledge that you're not happy. Happiness is simply getting what you want. So if you're not happy, then you're not getting what you want. So you either need to change your blueprint and get what you want, or you need to find something else that you can get to happy. So first you want to acknowledge I'm not happy. Then you want to ask yourself, what is triggering my unhappiness? And if it's not the current situation, then I'm safe. The first thing you want to tell your brain is I'm safe. Anytime you're triggered, it's because you don't feel safe, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. If it's true, if it's not true, like if this is a hallucination or a limiting belief, then I want you to just drop it. Because a lot of times we're creating our own unhappiness because we're living in a story. So I want you to ask yourself, is this true? Do I have all of the facts? And if not, then drop it. If you still can't get past that, the next qualifying question would be, what can I do about it? What can I do about it? What can I do to fix it? Here's the cool thing about the brain. It can't be in 2 places at once. So your brain can't be in problem and solution at the same time. So what you want to do is you want the brain to tell the brain, let's get into solution. What can I do to fix my current situation? How can I get out of this? If I'm not happy, how do I quickly get to happy? Sometimes that's blocking an individual. Sometimes that's stepping away. Sometimes that's giving more to the relationship. because you realize the narrative you're creating in your head is making withdrawals and you're starting to distance yourself from someone, which is creating a whole nother set of problems. And then lastly, what can I do about things I cannot change? And what can I do to accept and make my life better despite the problem? Next time you have a problem, I want you to write it down. And then I want you to write the advice you would give a friend if they brought you that problem. That's called a problem inventory. And I really, really like to do that. So now let's go to my next mentor. A lot of you know this man. He's kind of rich too. I think I put the two richest at the beginning, the two billionaires. This is Gary Keller. Now, Gary's taught me a lot over the last 12 years. He is a big, big influence in why I'm still with the company. This company changed my life when the whole world wanted to have nothing to do with me, and I was facing 15 years in prison and 3 felonies and all of this consequences beyond what my mind could even comprehend. This company's culture of God, family, business, and the WIC 42 T's put their arms around me and took me in. And that was 13 years ago. And I will never forget where my well was dug. And Keller Williams has done that for me. So he taught me about the energy plan and winning your morning to win your day, leverage, and careability. So let's go through those quickly. This is Gary's 5-step energy plan, and he believes you need to do all of this before 11 a.m. You need to feed your spiritual energy, your physical energy, your emotional energy, your mental energy, and your business energy, all before 11. The ways you can do that is meditate and pray, exercise and eat, hug, kiss, and laugh, plan and calendar, and lead generate. Now, I take this one step further because I studied a woman named BK Shivani. I will put her in the chat. BK Shivani. She's all over YouTube. She is my Hindu happy lady. She's got some great books on this, but she actually says that you should get up between 4 and 5 a.m. So a lot of you are going to ask, Brindley, what does your day look like? I get up at 4:30 in the morning every day. 4:30 to 5 a.m. is my time to pray, meditate, and read something to feed my mind. At 5:30, I do my first check-in with my team because they're on a little bit different schedule than me. So that way I get them set to go off for the day, and then the rest of the day is mine. And I get time before 10 a.m. At 10 a.m., I open up to everyone else. Before 10 a.m., I belong to me. What this does is it allows me to get in my workout. So I go to yoga at 6:30 or 7:15 every morning. I eat, I pray, I meditate, I read, I get through my emails, I get through anything outstanding that I need to get through. And then at 10 a.m., now I'm available for the world, and I have so much to give because I'm taken care of. For so many years, I didn't do that. And I was stressed all day long because I was being pulled in 80 million different directions. Everybody needed something and Brindley was getting nothing. And my bucket would just get empty, empty, empty. And I was constantly giving from an empty bucket and an empty cup. BK says that the most important 30 minutes of your day are the first 15 minutes in the morning and the last 15 minutes at night. And you should only consume positive content during these times. But what do most of us do? Ew, look at her. Oh my gosh. Ugh, why doesn't my family look like him? Oh, I wish I had a wife like that. Oh my goodness. I wish my partner was that hot. We are spending the majority of our time comparing ourselves to other or watching cat videos right when we wake up or when we go to bed, which means that's what's sitting in your unconscious mind for the rest of the day or while you sleep, which is when your brain processes. Meditation. There's no wrong way to do it. Just do it. Just sit in quiet. There's no right, no wrong way to do it. Also, start telling the world what you need to be and not letting the world tell you what you need to be. I had to decide what congruency looks like to me, who I am at my highest and best spiritually, mentally, physically, productively. And I'm going to talk to you guys about how to get all of that and how I got to that place. I have an avatar for almost every season of my life. This next avatar is strong and polished and confident and a leader and a voice and an influencer and a lover and a giver and a nurturer. She knows what she needs outside of work as much as she knows what she needs inside of work. She's working on relationships and going deeper in all of those things. And then sit and counsel yourself, which I talked about in the last slide. Next, Gary taught me about leverage. So if you have time to do this, do it now. If not, do it after the event. But if you're an entrepreneur on the call, you most likely work about 2,600 hours a year. That's roughly a 50-hour work week. Now, most of you don't actually work 50 hours. You're probably like me and work more 60 to 70. So what you want to do is you want to always know what your hourly rate is at all times, because if you don't know your worth and you don't determine it, someone else will. So how do you do that? Simply take your net income from last year or 2022, whichever one you want to use, and divide it by 2,600. That's on a basic average 50-hour work week. And that is going to tell you what your hourly rate is. If you don't know that number, then you don't know what you're doing to raise it or what you're doing to lower it. And Gary taught me that. Gary told me, I have to know the value of my time. And every yes has to be validated by 1,000 no's. And every no has to be validated by 1,000 yeses. When you say yes to this, you're saying no to something else. When you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. You've got to know what your no's and yeses are. And then he taught me the power of leverage. We all start and learn something by saying, why do we do it? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why? I have to know why I do it in order to know how to do it. Then I move up into learning how to do it. Okay, I know why I need to learn how to walk. Okay, but how do I learn how to walk? Well, first I have to crawl, right? Then I need to be able to stand on my toes. Okay, now that I know how to crawl, what do I do next? Now I stand up on my feet. Okay, now I stand up on my feet. Now what do I do next? I take the next step. Awesome. Well, now I know how to walk. What can I do next? Next, I can go climb. Next, I can go swing on a jumping playground set. So we go from why do we do something? How do we do it? To what else can we do? And when we bring people into our organizations, they come in the same phases. Why do we do home inspections? I got to know why we do them to know how to do them. Where do I send the report? How do I get in touch with the inspector? Once I know how to do it, then I can turn around and say, what else can I do? Well, now I can go learn this. And then eventually as leaders, we turn around and Gary says, when we're doing everything we can and we can do no more, we're missing a relationship. So then we turn around and we go, there's nothing else I can do. I need someone else to do it for me. But the hard part is, and I am guilty of this, you guys, is that only 5% of leaders actually stay in the who. We always keep going back to the what, back to the what, back to the what, back to the what, because most of us have control issues. And it's rooted deeply in our beliefs. Gary also taught me the difference between accountability and careability. Talent wants to be held accountable. We have to be willing to hold people accountable. Now, I've had a very interesting relationship with accountability. And I'm not a great manager. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a visionary. I love to cast vision. I'm not a manager. But I am learning that when I have KPIs and metrics in place, it makes me a better manager because it takes the emotion out of it. And so you want to always know in your business what your KPIs are, your key performance indicators, and those are actually tied to revenue, to money. They directly affect revenue. For my realtors on the call, this is going to be GCI. For my business owners, it's revenue. Then it's your net profit. Then it's the amount of referrals that you bring in. Those are examples of KPIs. You want to have a goal for each of your KPIs, and you want your team members to know what the KPIs for their role are. And then there's metrics. Metrics are tied to activities. These are getting into action. They're tied to revenue, but more indirectly than directly. They're the activity that's going to lead to the KPI. This is going to be things like contacts or leads or lead generation, client appointments or consults, and then things like reviews online and referrals. So it's important that if you want to care about your people and this to not always feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do another 411. Oh my gosh, we're going to fight again. Or I'm just mad because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Care enough about them to make it about the results. And if they're not able to get the results, care enough about them to coach them to the results or coach them out of the organization. Because in my experience, I've rescued, I've tried to save, I've led with my heart more than my head, and it put me $200,000 in debt for the first time in 13 years. And I won't do it again because it doesn't make them feel good in the end, and it doesn't make me feel good in the end. People have to know what's expected of them. And KPIs and metrics are the ways to do that. Two of my next mentors, Tony DeCello and Diana Kokoska. Now, some of you on the call know these two. Diana took a chance on me in 2016. In 2016, I was almost going to leave and leave the industry altogether. I had gotten involved in a partnership that didn't turn out to be what I thought it was going to be. And Diana actually took a chance on me and said, why don't you come help me build our operations coaching program for MAPS at the time? And that propelled me into getting me back in touch with the brain, which has always been a passion of mine. And she introduced me to NLP. She introduced me to Dr. Matt James, which would be NLP.com if you're interested in NLP. And that would start my neurolinguistic programming training, which helped me start to reverse all of the negative trauma that had come, which I'll explain here in a minute. But one of the things that Tony and Diana really preached to me was self-talk and how we talk to ourselves. We hear the word no 148,000 times before the age of 18. 75% of what we think is negative and counterproductive and works against us. And we have 5 levels to our self-talk. Now, we have 25 to 30 thoughts per minute, which is about 40 to 50,000 thoughts per day. Now, if you're a woman in the traditional sense of leading with your feminine energy, it's probably double that because we think way more because of our diffused awareness than men do because men are single focused. I'll get more into that in future Zooms that you're hopefully going to join me on, where we'll talk about the differences between feminine energy and masculine energy and same-sex partnership and different partnership and how you can start to understand one another simply by how you think and act from a survival standpoint. And then we have 5 levels that we go into and that I teach when I teach this, of getting from the level of negative acceptance, which is saying I can't, to getting all the way to the highest level, which is I just do. And this probably right here could be a 3-hour webinar because this is the number one thing after you get out of your own way that starts to make the most change is when you get this thing between your 2 ears working in your favor and you're able to start realizing that 80% of it, what's going on in it, is tied to something in your childhood, which brings me to the stages of physical and psychological development. Most of your core belief system is formed by the age of 7. I want you to hear me. Most of your core belief system is formed by the age of 7. So I want you to think about when we come into this world. When you come into this world, your brain is a blank canvas. From the moment you take your first breath, your brain is trying to keep you alive and figure out what you want and how to get it for you. And so the first 7 years of our lives, children are like sponges. We're just taking it all in. We're just trying to figure out if it rains and I'm outside, I get wet. If I touch a hot stove, I get in trouble. If I go in the cookie jar, I get grounded. We're just trying to figure out what are all these things around me that I need to do. This is why the majority of the core belief system is formed by the age of 7. Once we turn 7, now we start to move into what's called the modeling phase. Sorry, mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad. Now they've learned everything they can from you, and now they're going out and learning from their friends. This is why your kid comes home one day, flipping her hair, saying, "Bae," and you're like, "Who are you? You're not my child." Because most likely your child went to school and saw something they didn't learn in your home, and they see that, oh, Jennifer's popular, all the boys like her, or everyone pays attention to her, and she flips her hair and says, "Bae." And so you model that behavior because you think you'll get the same result. Again, development, just trying to figure out what it all means. Then we move from the modeling phase to the relationship phase. This is between the ages of 14 and 21. Hormones are developing. Hormones have gotten a little bit out of control. And this is where we learn collaboration and teamwork and partnership. If you don't believe anything that I have shared here with you today, I want you to use me as your case study. My uncle was killed when I was 18. My grandparents divorced after 48 years of marriage 6 months later. They were the only epitome of marriage that I ever had in my life. At 22, which is not far out from 21, I lost my first boyfriend that passed. My second one would come a little bit later in my 20s. So for a lot of years, I associated marriage with death and divorce. So why would I ever do it? They all end. All relationships end in death and divorce. Everyone leaves. So why would I invest? Why would I stay when it gets hard? Why wouldn't I run? Because my brain thinks it's protecting me. We'll go a little bit deeper in future calls around trauma and trauma release. And I'm studying right now, the body keeps score. And especially as women, how we hold trauma, mostly in our midsections. And when you experience trauma as a child, your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, never return to base level. Which is why people that have a lot of trauma in their younger years have struggle with their weight, especially women, as they grow and get older, because their cortisol levels are out of whack. And every time a stressor or a fight, flight, freeze, or please response is initiated by the brain, the base level of cortisol that's released is much higher than in a normal human being. Again, I'm going a little bit deep, but that's kind of what to look forward to in the future. They also taught me the 6 basic human needs. We all have basic human needs. Now, we'll get more into a masculine need versus a feminine need and all of that, but as generalized humans, your behavioral needs are number 1, your need for certainty. We like to feel safe. Number 2 is the need for uncertainty or variety. We've got to have change, some things changing. We like variety, we like stimulation. The need for significance, to be really important, to feel valid. The need for love and connection and feeling like we have a need to connect. Now, we all have these, but we all rank them differently, and we're going to figure out what yours are. And then spiritual needs, your need for growth and your need for contribution. And once we identify our needs, then we can start changing our emotional states. We have 2 states that will immediately take us over, and that's anger and frustration, and those are reactions. There is 8 inches from your brain to your heart, and these are the most important 8 inches in your body. A lot of us, when we are triggered, it's because of an emotional safety response from when we were younger that triggers in our brain and releases anger or frustration. But the minute we get into gratitude, appreciation, and love, we can't be in those anger and frustration states. It's why the get happy in 7 seconds works, because it gets us in outside of ourselves. And so there's ways that we can do that. My next mentor that I want to talk about is very special. As I said, this woman, along with Gary Keller, changed my life 13 years ago when she talked about God Family Business. Mo Anderson was the first CEO of Keller Williams, the first female CEO of Keller Williams. And she grew the company to what it is today. And how she grew that and what she will tell you is she grew it based on being a good integrator, sticking to the company's core values and beliefs. And recently I've started seeking Mo out for mentorship. And she shared with me that her beliefs, she has always been a person that has been convicted of her beliefs. And a lot of us, our belief system has been imposed on us. We believe what we believe because we were taught to believe that as a child. And what Mo has challenged me to do is really to look in deep and what do I believe now? What's most important to me? Not what was told needed to be or what religion I was raised in, but what is really important to me. And she taught me the importance of a mission, a vision, and values, and why they are so important in the entrepreneur, integrator, or visionary integrator relationship. Gary had a really big vision, but Gary will tell you he could not implement it or execute it on his own. And that's where Mo came in. And Mo would bring focus and clarity to Gary's mission and vision by figuring out what was most important, what were the goals, what were the short-term goals that we needed to accomplish to get to the mission, and then what were our priorities and what was important to us, win-win or no deal, integrity in all things. And then sticking to those values, because that's how we treat each other. Values teach you inside of an organization how we behave and how we interact with one another. And I've been the leader that hasn't lived the values, and it doesn't work. They have to be my values, and everyone has to be in alignment with the values that I have set as the leader for the organization. Otherwise, I won't follow them. I can't have value things in my company to try to keep someone. And I found that out in this last iteration, you can call it, this last season. And belief is so important because belief are the rules and standards that you live by. What are your beliefs? What are you going to stand strong for? And what has made Gary and Mo so successful is that Gary and Mo have learned how to debate at a really high level. And good debaters, debating is where you learn why you believe what you believe and how to communicate that. And so we're going to talk in future calls very deeply about how to learn how to properly debate so that when you go into conversations with others where you may not see eye to eye, you can stand firm in your belief and knowing why you believe that. And one of the ways we do that is through a values elicitation, which we'll be doing with everyone. And this will be in the slide that you can follow the steps if you'd like to do it on your own. But do you know what your values are? Have you done a values elicitation with yourself first, so then you can do it with your team? Now, before I share with you something really, really exciting, I just want to thank all of you for coming today. I know that was a lot of information in 52 minutes. And what's most important to me is that I always, always, always over deliver the value for you guys. And I have worked 12 years on bringing something to the surface. Those of you that have followed me for a number of years, you have watched me say at times, here, something's coming, and it hasn't quite come. And the reason is it never felt congruent. And I'm going to share with you today that I've waited 13 years to bring this to you. And I am starting October 1st, something called Brinley's Boardroom. And Brinley's Boardroom is going to be a community of like-minded individuals that want to become their highest and best and want to take the road that I have taken. Now, in the past, my group programs have run anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month. And what was really important to me this time around was I didn't want money to become an issue. I didn't want money to be a roadblock for people to not be able to invest in the program. So we've kept it at a very affordable amount. We've also given you some options to help with paying up front to save a little bit money. But most importantly, before I tell you everything that is coming, I want you to know that I do not want money to be a reason that you do not join this program. So if you have challenges, I want you to come to me because I have people that are willing to pay for sponsorship. So I want you to come to me, but only if you're going to have to fill out an application and get vulnerable, because my whole thing here is you're coming to do the work. You're coming to have a better life. And you got to be willing to do the work. So if I'm going to help you out financially, just know there's going to be a commitment attached to that you have to do the work. And then there'll be a plan to get you there. So let's talk about what I'm bringing you guys. Guys, like, I have spent countless hours coming up with the perfect format. Nobody else is doing anything like it. And I'm really, really excited. So every month you're going to have 2 live monthly Zooms, 45 minutes to an hour with me. These are going to be a combination of content like you saw today, where we go deep in a topic, and then also Q&A, where you can ask me questions, and then where we're going to mastermind with the group. So it'll kind of be a 3-part call twice a month. Our third call of the month is going to be a hot seat. You're each going to be sent a form that is going to, you're going to get a form that's going to ask you your challenge, and then we're randomly going to select somebody in the group to be in the hot seat for that call. And I'm going to live one-on-one coach you in that seat. The fourth call of the month is going to be a guest speaker. This is going to be somebody from my journey that is strictly going to come talk to you as members. These are friends of mine. They will not be paid to be here, so it won't be their normal keynote. It is really just going to be them doing me a favor and coming and talking to you guys, because they've had such a huge part in my journey, and I'm going to interview them on how they've specifically helped me. You're going to have a private Facebook group on social media where you can ask questions, communicate, have community. We're also going to have an online, this is huge, like I can't believe I'm even doing this, but we're going to have an online community, and I'm giving you 13 years of a resource library. Everything from business to personal to anything that I have done, studied, created, classes I've taught, all of it. I'm giving it to you as part of this in your members only section on your own personal portal. This is also where you can communicate with me one-on-one if you don't feel comfortable in the group. And then I will be doing a live event sometime next year here in Florida for this group. So this group is going to be our members only. Now here's what's going to happen. Some of you are going to take what you learned today, and you're going to have pulled out a couple nuggets, and you're going to go live them, and you're going to live them for like the next 2 to 3 weeks until something else comes into your brain. And then you're going to go right back to living how you were living before today. Or you can make the commitment today. Join me in 2 weeks for our first call on October 1st. And I'll make sure that this stuff not only stays in your brain, but it becomes who you are. And that you have a life beyond your wildest dreams. And that you get to experience a life of your highest and best. Now, why did I put the timing? I didn't plan the timing of this, by the way. And I think this is happening right now because a lot of you in your businesses in the next 3 or 4 months are going to slow down. And it's going to be a great time to focus on you. And that's exactly what this program is. This program is just for you. Now, there is one other opportunity that I'm not going to talk too much about today, but you'll start to see some emails come out. If you're a current one-on-one coaching client with me, or you'd like to come into my one-on-one schedule and apply to be on my one-on-one schedule, you're actually going to be what we call a board of directors. And you're going to be on my board of directors. And that group is going to get all of this, plus some additional benefits for being a one-on-one client. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me on social media, email me, or just make sure you're on our mailing list, which you should be because you signed up for the webinar, because I'll be releasing all of that soon. And my one-on-one clients, you already get it all. If you're on the call, you get all of this, because I know I've told some of you are not. How do you sign up? Brindley'sBoardroom.com. Brindley'sBoardroom.com. It's super easy. Guys, get into action. The best thing you can do is that if you're feeling it in your heart and your soul right now, that this was the right time for you, I want you to go join, and don't talk yourself out of it. You deserve this. You're worth this. This is an investment in you. And this program is going to change you as a business owner, and it's going to change you as a person. Because I'm going to cover it all. We're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to talk about numbers and productivity. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about emotions. We're going to talk about all of it. And we're going to do it together with like-minded people that want to be here. So I hope you guys will join me on this journey. I'm so excited to bring this to you in October. And here we go. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. And thank you so much for all the wonderful, wonderful comments. Go to Brindley'sBoardroom.com and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.